Something is already moving, not approaching, already moving. Through the ground beneath your feet, through the field of your body, through the quiet spaces between your thoughts, where, if you have been paying attention, you have been sensing a pressure that feels like anticipation, and a warmth that feels like recognition. You have felt it in the hours before waking, when consciousness floats between worlds in the veil between what is seen and what is real grows thin. You have felt it in the sudden, inexplicable emotion that rises without a clear, external cause and passes just as suddenly, leaving something behind that feels like clarity. You have felt it as a pull, not dramatic, not forceful, but utterly persistent, toward something more real than the life you have been performing. What you have been feeling is not anxiety, it is not spiritual imagination. It is your body receiving a transmission that has been building in intensity for weeks, and that is about to reach a threshold your world has not crossed and recorded. Memory. I am 10 of the Pleiadian command, and we have come to tell you exactly what is happening, and exactly why this moment was always going to be yours. We speak to you from a position of extraordinary privilege, because we have watched this planet move through cycles of preparation, of near arrival, of setback and resilience, for longer than your current civilization can conceive. We have been present at thresholds before. We know what a genuine gateway feels like from the outside, from the perspective of those who witness, rather than those who pass through. And what is opening now, through the astronomical alignment you call the March equinox, through the convergence of solar, magnetic, and galactic cycles that are meeting simultaneously in this specific window, is not comparable to previous thresholds. It is of an entirely different magnitude, what your ancient ancestors mapped into ceremony and stone, what your mystic traditions have encoded in symbol and practice across thousands of years, what your most sensitive receivers have been dreaming in fragments and feeling. In their bones, it is here, not coming, here. And the only question that matters now is whether you are positioned to receive what is available. The Equinox Gateway functions as a precision instrument of cosmic design, where most people understand it as a calendrical event, the moment when day and night achieve equal measure. The reality operating beneath that astronomical fact is something of far greater consequence. The equinox is a moment when the electromagnetic architecture of your planet enters a state of maximum receptivity. The angle at which solar intelligence reaches your surface, the orientation of your magnetic field relative to the galactic center, the specific resonance created by the equal balance of light and darkness. These create for a window that extends several days on either side of the exact crossing point, an opening in the fabric of your reality through which frequencies that normally require enormous effort to receive arrive with extraordinary ease. The Pleiadian command has studied these windows across multiple civilizations. On multiple worlds, we have participated in them. We know what becomes possible inside them that is not possible outside them, and what becomes possible inside this specific one, amplified by additional solar and magnetic factors that we will address, is activation on a scale that your most advanced channeled literature has only partially described. Stay with every word of what follows. Because the information we are transmitting now contains a specific frequency that activates as it moves through your awareness. And the full activation requires the full transmission. The gateway does not arrive for everyone in the same form. For those who carry what your traditions call starseed consciousness, the encoded memory of a larger identity that exists beyond the boundaries of edge, single human lifetime, the equinox window feels like a coming home, like something that has been held at a distance for years, suddenly allowed to move close. You recognize it not as new information, but as remembered truth. Arriving back into your awareness with the weight of something you always knew and were waiting for the right moment to reclaim. For those who carry light worker mission, the specific contractual agreement to serve the collective transition from the inside through embodied presence rather than external intervention. This window feels like an activation of purpose, like a circuit completing, like the quiet internal shift from preparing to actually being what you prepared to become. And for everyone who arrives at this transmission, regardless of how they understand their own identity, this window is real. It is available, and it responds to sincerity with a precision and generosity that will exceed whatever you are currently expecting. We have a particular relationship with this planet and this moment that we wish to be transparent about. The Pleiadian collective is not simply an observer of Earth's ascension. We are participants with a history here that predates your current civilization by a span of time your calendar system does not have adequate language for. Aspects of what you call the ancient world, the ceremonial architectures, the astronomical alignments, the sacred geometries encoded in sites across every continent of your world, carry the fingerprints of a collaboration between early human consciousness and Pleiadian guidance that was far more direct than your mainstream history records. We have walked your earth. We have breathed your air. We have participated in equinox ceremonies on your soil that bear a striking resemblance to what the most sensitively attuned among you feel called to do as this gateway opens. We do not offer this information to inflate our authority. We offer it because it explains something about why you feel what you feel when you engage with Pleiadian transmissions, why there is a quality of recognition that goes beyond intellectual engagement into something that feels like cellular memory. You are remembering a relationship that predates your current life by millennia. What we are about to describe changes everything you think you understand about what this window asks of you and what it is actually offering to those who are genuinely ready to receive it. The first doorway of this gateway we call the 0-degree spark chamber, not because it requires anything from you, but because it describes precisely what happens inside your energetic field at the moment of genuine contact with the incoming frequency. A spark chamber is created when two forces meet with sufficient precision and readiness. The first force is the incoming solar and galactic intelligence that moves through the equinox opening. The second force is you, your genuine, unperformed, honest present moment self, standing at the threshold with whatever you actually are right now. Not what you wish you were or intend to become, but what is actually present. When those two forces meet in that quality of honesty, something ignites. Not dramatically, not with a sound or a light, or an extraordinary sensation, though those can accompany it. It ignites as a quiet but unmistakable inner knowing, a deep and simple recognition that something has changed, that a door has opened, that the life you have been building toward has taken one decisive step closer. That particular move away from a life half-lived toward the one your soul has always been navigating toward begins inside the spark chamber. It begins with the simplest possible action, showing up honestly and allowing yourself to actually feel what is here. The 0-degree spark chamber is where vision and structure meet for the first time as genuine partners. Many among you carry extraordinary visions, projects designed to serve, creative expressions waiting for the conditions to arrive, relationships that exist in your heart as a clear knowing of what love can actually look like, ways of contributing to this world that honor the specific and unrepeatable intelligence you carry. These visions are not fantasies. They are blueprints. They are the forward projections of your soul's intelligence, showing you the direction of your most aligned development before the conditions for their manifestation have fully assembled. What the equinox window provides is not the complete assembly of those conditions in a single dramatic moment. It provides something more foundational, the energetic frequency that allows a vision to transition from an inner picture into an actual living commitment. The moment you give a vision a rhythm, a place in your daily life, a small and honest action that says to the field around you, I have begun. You change its category from possibility to trajectory, and trajectory in a magnetic window of this magnitude accelerates in ways that would take months or years under ordinary energetic conditions. The spark chamber does not ask for perfection. It has no interest in your performance of readiness. It responds to one thing and one thing only: genuine sincerity. The quality of presence that arrives when you stop negotiating with what you already know and simply acknowledge what is true for you right now. This is why the beings who move most powerfully through this gateway are frequently not the ones with the most sophisticated spiritual vocabulary or the most extensive practice history. They are the ones who are most honestly present. The ones who can look at the actual territory of their lives without the filter of how it should be and meet what is real with a kind of open curiosity that says, show me what is next. This quality of sincerity is not taught. It cannot be performed, but it can be chosen. And it can be chosen right now. In this moment, as you listen to these words, as a simple internal decision to meet what arrives without the usual protective distance of interpretation and management. When you make that decision, the spark chamber recognizes it immediately, and the frequency of what it offers you changes. What we reveal next is the piece of this transmission that those who are not yet ready will hear as interesting information, and those who are ready will feel as an activation in their physical body. Notice which experience you are having. The structure of your daily life is not separate from your spiritual development. It is the primary medium through which your spiritual development either actualizes or remains in the realm of beautiful potential indefinitely. Lightworkers and starseeds have sometimes carried a belief, absorbed from spiritual traditions that emerged from earlier phases of collective development, that the highest form of service operates through energy and consciousness alone, that the physical details of how you organize your time and attention are somehow beneath the level of your real spiritual work. We tell you with deep love and equal directness, this belief has been the single greatest obstacle to the actualization of starseed mission on your planet. Your service lives in your craft, your skill, your consistency, your willingness to show up again and again in the physical world and let your hands and your voice and your physical presence do the work that your energy initiates. The Pleiadian command has never underestimated the sacred nature of embodied action. We revere it. We know from direct experience what it requires and what it makes possible. And this Equinox Gateway is specifically designed to activate precisely this, the willingness to bring your highest knowing all the way into the physical domain of your daily choices, your daily rhythms, your daily commitments. The second doorway of this gateway we call the magnetic keyhole weeks. The weeks immediately preceding and following the equinox carry a specific electromagnetic quality that your instruments can partially measure as shifts in the geomagnetic field, but that operates at frequencies well below the threshold of current scientific detection. What those frequencies do, in practical terms, is this. They amplify the signal-to-noise ratio of your intuitive perception. Under ordinary conditions, your inner knowing must compete with the continuous background noise of collective emotional weather, of accumulated mental conditioning, of the persistent interference generated by a culture that has organized itself around distraction. During the magnetic keyhole weeks, that background noise does not disappear, but the signal of your own genuine inner knowing becomes dramatically stronger relative to it. Small choices feel larger because they are registering with greater clarity. Quiet moments feel richer because the information available in the quiet is more accessible. Inner truth rises to the surface with less effort because the magnetic conditions are actively supporting its emergence. Many of you have noticed in recent weeks that you can no longer tolerate the conversations, environments, and patterns that you were able to endure with relative ease just months ago. Things that once felt merely uncomfortable now feel genuinely incompatible with who you are. Commitments that once felt manageable now feel like they are actively costing you something essential. Relationships that once felt adequate now feel unmistakably misaligned. This is not you becoming more demanding or less tolerant. This is the magnetic amplification of your field's natural intelligence. Your system has always known what serves your development and what drains it. What the keyhole weeks do is remove the energetic insulation that allowed you to remain comfortable in misalignment, and the discomfort that results is not a problem to be solved. It is precise navigational information delivered by the most sophisticated guidance system available to any being. Your own direct experience of what your life actually feels like to inhabit. The sincerity that the magnetic window amplifies is not a virtue to be cultivated through spiritual practice. It is a substance, a living, responsive quality of consciousness that, when present, creates an immediate and measurable change in the frequency of your field, and, therefore, in the nature of what your field attracts. When you speak a truth you have been holding, your body relaxes in a way that is physiologically distinct from the relaxation that follows any other action. When you make a decision that aligns with your genuine values, rather than your conditioned responses, there is a quality of inner settlement that is unmistakable once you know what to look for. When you stop performing a role that no longer fits and allow what is actually present to be seen, first by yourself and then by the world around you, an energy returns to your field that has been slowly draining away. For however long the performance has been running, the magnetic keyhole weaks do not create these responses. They amplify them to the point where they cannot be ignored, where the difference between what is aligned and what is not becomes so clear in your body that only the most determined commitment to self-avoidance can prevent you from seeing it. Pay very close attention to what follows, because this is the part of the transmission that contains the specific guidance that your soul requested before you arrived in this lifetime. And you are receiving it now because you are ready. The aurora principle that operates in these weeks is this: what has been invisible becomes visible. What has been inaudible becomes heard. What has been distant becomes immediate, not because reality has changed, but because your capacity to perceive it has been temporarily enhanced to a degree that makes the ordinary extraordinary. The aurora itself, that phenomenon of invisible solar currents meeting planetary atmosphere to produce visible light, is the perfect living symbol for what happens in the human consciousness during a powerful magnetic window. The unseen becomes seen. The felt but not acknowledged becomes unavoidably clear. The patterns that have been organizing your experience from below the threshold of your conscious awareness rise to a level where they can finally be examined, understood, and, most importantly, chosen consciously rather than simply repeated unconsciously. This is the gift that most people in your world will never know this window is offering, because most people in your world are not oriented toward the kind of inner attention required to receive it. You are. The fact of your presence at this transmission is not coincidental. Your soul navigated you here because your soul knows what this window contains and has been waiting for exactly this moment to receive it. The sensitive ones, those of you who have lived your entire lives in a nervous system calibrated to perceive what others cannot, who have felt the emotional weather of rooms before entering them, who have dreamed events before they happened and known things you had no logical way of knowing, who have experienced your sensitivity primarily as exhaustion, overwhelm, and the persistent confusion of not understanding why ordinary life requires so much more from you than it seems to require for most people around you. We speak to you now with a directness that we hope you will receive as the love it is. Your sensitivity is not a disorder. It is not a dysfunction. It is not evidence of a nervous system that formed incorrectly, or a soul that chose an incarnation that was somehow poorly designed. It is an advanced perceptual architecture, a precision instrument built to detect and respond to frequencies that most human nervous systems are not configured to register. And the reason that architecture has made your life so difficult is not that it was the wrong choice. It is that you have been living with an instrument of extraordinary capability in a culture that had no framework for understanding it, and therefore no support structure for maintaining it. The equinox window is specifically powerful for highly sensitive beings because it does something that no amount of personal spiritual work can accomplish. It temporarily changes the external energetic conditions in a way that makes your instrument function with dramatically less interference. The ambient noise that your nervous system is continuously processing, the collective emotional weight, the discordant frequencies of unresolved collective trauma, the persistent pressure of a culture organized around speed and performance, reduces during the keyhole weeks in a way that creates space. Space in which your own signal can be heard clearly. Space in which the difference between what is genuinely yours and what you have, absorbed from the fields around you, becomes perceptible. Space in which rest actually restores, rather than simply pausing depletion. If you have been waiting for a window in which your sensitivity would finally feel like an asset rather than a burden, this is that window. The conditions for using your instrument skillfully rather than being overwhelmed by it are as favorable right now as they will be for a significant period of time. What is required of you is not more effort, it is permission. The specific permission to let this window support you, to let the magnetic conditions do work that you have been trying to do alone. Through sheer force of will for far too long, the discernment available to you during these weeks can become a complete navigational system if you learn to read its language in the body rather than the mind. Your body carries a knowing that operates completely independently of your mental conditioning, of your inherited beliefs, of the stories you have constructed about what is possible and what is not. This knowing expresses itself as physical sensation, as the specific quality of expansion or contraction in the chest that accompanies alignment or misalignment, as the openness or tightening in the throat that signals whether a communication is true or performed, as the groundedness or dispersal in the belly that indicates whether a decision is sourced from genuine values or from fear and social conditioning. These signals are not symbolic, they are physiological. They are the intelligence of your body communicating with the intelligence of your consciousness through the only language that cannot be faked: direct physical experience. The magnetic amplification of the keyhole weeks makes these signals louder and clearer. But receiving them accurately requires one thing above all others: the willingness to slow down enough to actually feel what your body is telling you before your mind constructs a narrative about what you should be feeling. We are now moving into the transmission that the Pleiadian command has been preparing to deliver through this specific window. The part of this message that we have been holding for exactly this moment in your collective development. The third doorway we call the shadow then glow sequence, and we introduce it with particular care because the language of shadow in many spiritual traditions has accumulated connotations of danger, of darkness to be escaped, of aspects of the self to be transcended, rather than integrated. The shadow then glow sequence operates on a completely different principle. Here, the shadow is not the enemy. The shadow is the messenger. The specific and precisely calibrated signal that something in your experience is ready for your conscious attention, ready to be seen with the quality of compassionate presence that transforms what was an unconscious driver of your behavior into a conscious choice about how you want to live. The sequence works exactly as its name describes. First comes a gentle shade, a period in which certain aspects of your life, your patterns, your unresolved emotional material, move closer to the surface of your awareness in ways that can feel temporarily uncomfortable, and then, in direct proportion to the honesty and compassion with which you receive what rises, comes the glow, the specific quality of inner radiance and expanded capacity that follows. Genuine integration, and that no spiritual practice can produce artificially, because it can only be generated by the real thing. Completion during this passage looks quiet from the outside, and this is perhaps its most important characteristic to understand, because a culture trained to recognize significance only when it is dramatic will miss the most profound transformations entirely. The completion that is available in this window does not require drama. It does not require confrontation. It does not require grand declarations or visible acts of reinvention. It requires one thing: honesty, the specific honesty of acknowledging to yourself and in the privacy of your own inner world what is complete, what has served its purpose, what you have genuinely outgrown, what agreements, roles, identities, and patterns were built for a version of you that no longer needs them. The soul, when given honest acknowledgement and genuine permission, releases these things with a grace and naturalness that the personality, left to its own management, would struggle to achieve in years of deliberate effort. You do not need to force your own completion. You need to allow it, to create the internal conditions, honesty, compassion, presence, in which what is ready to release can do so without the resistance that comes from trying to control the process. Forgiveness is the practical mechanism through which the shadow, then glow, sequence completes itself most fully. Not forgiveness as a spiritual performance, not forgiveness as the suppression of genuine hurt beneath a veneer of enlightened equanimity. Forgiveness as what it actually is: a physiological process of releasing the tethering of your present moment, energy to past moment events that no longer exist except in the continuous recreation of them that happens when you carry the unresolved charge of those events in your body. When you forgive, genuinely, not performatively, you are not making a moral statement about whether what happened was acceptable. You are making a practical decision about where your energy lives. You are choosing to stop feeding the past with the vitality of your present attention. You are reclaiming the portion of your consciousness that has been dedicated to maintaining the record of an injury, a betrayal, a failure, a loss, and redirecting that consciousness toward the life that is actually available to you right now. The magnetic conditions of this equinox window make genuine forgiveness significantly more accessible than it is under ordinary circumstances. The field supports release. The energetic cost of holding old charges increases. The relief available in releasing them becomes more immediately perceptible. Use this, not as a spiritual obligation, as the practical, body-level freedom it actually is. There is one more thing we must tell you before we move into the final. Transmission. Something about this specific moment in your collective timeline that changes the context of everything we have described, and we will not delay in telling it to you directly. The astronomical events that have framed this gateway window, the solar activity, the lunar passages, the specific convergence of alignments that your sky has been displaying, are not decorative. They are structural components of a mechanism that your ancient ancestors understood in functional rather than symbolic terms. The ring, the halo of light around a darkened center, is the visual expression of a principle that operates simultaneously at the cosmic and the personal level. That light always remains present around what appears to be covered. That the soul remains whole and radiant, even when moving through what feels, from the inside, like a period of shadow. The ember glow, the deep, warm luminosity that accompanies specific lunar passages, speaks in the language of the body rather than the mind. Red, earth, life force, courage that lives in the bones and the belly rather than the head. These are the sky's way of communicating in a language that bypasses the analytical mind and lands directly in the body's knowing. They are cosmological confirmation of what your body has already been sensing for weeks, that something real is here, that it is available, that it is designed specifically for you, and that the direction it points is one you already know. The courage that this gateway activates is not the courage of force or aggression or the dramatic overcoming of opposition. It is the quieter and, we would argue, far more demanding courage of simply being honest about what is true for you. The courage to acknowledge what you have already completed without needing the external world to acknowledge it first. The courage to take the next genuine step without waiting for certainty that it is the right step, trusting instead the quality of inner knowing that your body carries as its most reliable compass. The courage to stop explaining yourself to those who are not yet ready to understand, and to invest the energy you have been spending on that explanation into actually building the life that your clarity is pointing toward. Many of you have been waiting for the right circumstances, for the right moment, for the right degree of preparation, for the right level of confidence, to begin living with the full honesty of what you know. We tell you with the full authority of our position and our history with this planet, the waiting is complete. Not because you have reached a standard of readiness that has finally been met, because this moment, this specific convergence of cosmic conditions, personal development, and collective necessity is precisely the moment the waiting was building toward. The practices that will most effectively support your work with this gateway window are the simplest ones. Stillness, not as a spiritual achievement to be maintained indefinitely, but as a daily practice of creating even a few genuine minutes of internal quiet in which what is actually present can be perceived without the constant interference of what you think should be present. Breath, not as a technique, but as a return, the simplest possible act of bringing your awareness back into your physical body through the one process that is always happening, always available, always capable of anchoring you in the present moment, regardless of how far your mind has traveled into past or future. Water, both internal and external, as a medium that your body uses for energetic clearing with a naturalness and effectiveness that is difficult to replicate through any other means. Honest pace, not the pace that the culture around you demands, not the pace that your conditioning tells you is required to demonstrate your worth, but the pace that your body actually requires to function with clarity and care. These are not small things. During a magnetic window of this magnitude, small things carry outsized effect. The entire trajectory of what this gateway can accomplish for you can be set or disrupted by something as apparently minor as whether you choose today to honor your need for rest. We come now to what we consider the most essential transmission in everything. We have offered you today the understanding that we most want you to carry with you into the days that follow this window, and we offer it in the simplest language available. The question that carries the most transformative power in this gateway window is one that does not require analysis to answer, because the analysis will always be incomplete, and the heart already knows. Ask yourself, not with the urgency of problem solving, but with the gentle curiosity of someone who genuinely wants to hear the answer. What have I been living that is no longer real for me? Hold this question not as a demand for immediate resolution, but as an opening, an invitation to your own life to show you, over the days following this gateway, through the feelings that arise, through the synchronicities that appear, through what you find yourself suddenly disinterested in, and what you find yourself suddenly drawn toward, what has completed its cycle and is ready to be released with gratitude and without drama. The answers that come will not always be what you expect. They will sometimes be subtle, a social pattern that has been quietly draining you for years, a self-definition that was accurate once and now constricts, a habit of overgiving that has been operating as a substitute for the more vulnerable act of asking for what you genuinely need, a story you have been telling about your past that has shaped your understanding of what is possible in your future. These are not small completions. They are the completions that change everything else, because they free the energy that has been maintaining the old architecture of your life, and that freed energy becomes available for the new architecture that this gateway is designed to initiate. Your mind will carry questions for longer than your heart needs to. This is natural. This is the function of the mind, to process, to verify, to ensure that the changes initiated by the heart are workable in the physical conditions of your actual life. Honor the mind for this. Give it the time it needs, without allowing it to veto what the heart already knows. The sequencing matters. Heart first, then mind. Not mind first, then heart, as a later emotional addition to a decision that has already been made intellectually. The most powerfully aligned decisions you will make in your life are the ones that begin as a felt knowing and are then organized, refined, and executed by the mind working in service of that knowing. During this gateway window, with the magnetic amplification of your field's natural intelligence operating at maximum capacity, the felt knowing is more accessible than it will be for some time. Trust it, not blindly. Bring your discernment. Bring your grounded intelligence. Bring all the wisdom accumulated through everything you have lived through. But trust it. Let it lead. Let the mind follow. That sequencing, practiced consistently through and beyond this window, is the practical mechanism through which Starseed mission actualizes in the physical world. The Pleiadian command does not speak to you from a distance. We speak to you from a relationship, ancient, deliberate, and still active. We have accompanied the development of human consciousness on this planet, across cycles that your current civilization does not have the historical record to trace. We have watched you approach thresholds before and, for reasons involving the choices of both your collective and ours, seen those approaches end without the crossing. What is different now is not that the threshold has become easier. It is that humanity, through a development process that has required extraordinary courage from a very large number of very ordinary people, simply choosing, repeatedly and without fanfare, to be honest about what they knew and to act from that honesty even when everything in their environment was organized to prevent exactly that. Humanity has become genuinely ready, not perfectly prepared, not free of the confusion and fear and uncertainty that are simply the honest response to the scale of what this moment contains, but ready in the way that matters, open, present, and willing to meet what arrives without insisting that it conform to what was expected. If this transmission has landed as true in your body, not just as interesting to your mind, but as genuinely true in the part of you that knows the difference, we ask you to carry it into the days of this gateway with deliberateness. Subscribe to this channel and activate notifications because the transmissions coming through this window build on each other. And the full picture of what is available requires the full sequence. Share this with the one person you know whose soul is ready for it. Not everyone, not as a broadcast, but as a precise and personal delivery to the one who needs it now. And take one action today, no matter how small, that demonstrates to your own consciousness and to the field around you that you have received this, that you are not treating this as information to be filed, that something in you has actually moved. A note, a decision, an honest conversation with yourself about what is complete, a single step in the direction your heart has been pointing for longer than your mind has been willing to acknowledge. The field of this gateway responds to movement, and the response, when it comes, will be unlike anything you have yet experienced in this lifetime. We are the Pleiadian Command. We have been here across the long arc of your becoming. We are here now, and we will be here for what comes next. The light has always been winning. You are the evidence. Welcome home.